Hello, everyone. My name is Seth Villegas. I'm really glad to be here again today with all of you for our AI for Leaders series. I'm really glad to be joined today by Brahm Rhodes. And Brahm, it's really great to have you here. We've been really looking forward to getting to know you over the course of this.
Yeah, great to be here. Happy to do it.
So Brahm Rhodes is an entrepreneur and investor based in Washington, D.C.
Yep.
And Brahm is also a founder and managing partner of Redtail Ventures, founder and general partner of Malaika Ventures, and is also managing partner of Backed and Black Capital, a nano-fund that backs Black tech founders. You're a partner of several things, Brahm, which is very impressive. And I think
Yeah.
most importantly, though, you're a triple alum of BU University. So I'm really excited to see someone who is really invested in BU and loves our program here and is looking to get involved with CDS. So it's really great to have you. I've definitely seen you around. I know you're a good friend of Azure as well. So
Yep.
can't overstate how excited I am to have you here today.
Yeah, no, it's good to be here. It's been a lot of fun re-engaging with the university and especially CBS.
All right. So I first wanted to ask you about a little bit about your career trajectory. So I know that you're working a lot in venture capital now, but if I look at your educational background, you're a triple alum in engineering. So I was just
Mhm.
wondering a little bit about how you actually got involved with that initially, especially kind of given your background and what your journey was like.
Yeah, so career-wise, it's been relatively eclectic, but I guess you could say that that was also true of my education. Even though I got all my degrees at BU, each degree is in a different engineering discipline. So I went through electrical, aerospace, and mechanical. Um, career-wise, got out of school, did a fellowship at Harvard Med School and Brigham Women's Hospital. So I was working in healthcare. At the same time, I had started my own company. I always knew I wanted to have my own startup, so I started that at the same time, and then just progressed through a series of startups and small companies, all in different areas. So I went from healthcare to defense, um, entertainment, fintech, prop tech, some climate tech in there. Um, Actually took a break and went to be a professional photographer, which was interesting. Um, did some work in autonomous, brief stint in autonomous vehicles, and then at that point in time, I was living overseas, and when I moved back to the States, I was digging into AI, machine learning, et cetera, and was very interested in the aspects of AI that dealt with bias, and started to work in that space. And then thinking about, what's next. I thought I had another startup in me, but I also felt like I would have more impact as an investor working to launch multiple companies. And specifically, it started actually Redtail Ventures, which was a small micro fund focused on backing AI first companies with a responsible AI focus. So the idea was to help very early stage companies build responsible AI into the DNA of the organization. But I was very early in launching Redtail when I got pulled into to launch Malaika. I was just helping my current partner launch that firm while working on Redtail. And then, the work just became so much. I was like, let's just fold it all together. So Malaika actually has, we invest in climate tech, but we have an AI and data pillar that's focused on, how do we leverage AI and data to better understand the environment and to create more sustainable solutions. So it kind of bounced around, but it does all tie together throughout the career progression. The main driver for me has not been solving a problems in a particular area, but just addressing hard problems in general that have a
Okay,
that have a significant impact.
Okay, great. I think a lot of our students are kind of thinking a lot about their careers and about transitions and skills. So I think it's great to have someone here who's kind of, really taking the plunge on really pursuing some of these things.
Yeah.
All right.
I
So,
mean, the key thing, just real quick, a key thing is
mhm.
you you have to have a foundation in something though. So, my foundation was in engineering, and what it but as I progressed through my degrees, the biggest one of the biggest things I got out of my education at BU was one, learning how to learn and learning how to solve problems. So I could attack new areas, address new challenges without, being completely intimidated or thinking, "Oh, I don't know anything about that. I can't do that." So that was always been a foundation of the stuff that I've been doing.
I think that actually leads well into my next question, which is how does your technical background actually help you in your day-to-day work? So, it's both a leader and a partner. Like, how do you feel like it's an advantage to actually be coming into that from engineering?
Um, I mean, for me, I'm a geek, nerd, techno, whatever you want to call me at heart. So I love to like dig into the technologies and so on. And Malaika is focused on addressing the climate problem. I mean, we have a climate justice focus, but fundamentally we think through innovation, we can back innovations that help solve the climate problem for everybody. Um, and climate spans the whole economy, it spans multiple technologies, and it really, there's a lot of investors that are not necessarily technically adept, but they're still very good investors. But when you're evaluating a startup, when you're looking at an opportunity, when you're looking at what they're building, it it's helped me have some grounding in a broad base of technologies to be able to assess things quickly and think, okay, yeah, these these folks know what they're talking about, or yes, this technology seems to have gotten over some fundamental hurdle that wasn't was a barrier before. So it's been really helpful on a day-to-day basis in both assessing opportunities, evaluating teams and their technical chops, and basically just figuring out, all right, this is a solution that can actually win. Um, one of the things that we try to look at when we're looking at companies is where are the risks? And there are scientific risks, there's market risks, there's other technical risks, there's engineering risk, um, and being able to look at a potential solution and think and get to the point where it's like, okay, they've overcome the scientific risk. All right, we're not talking about a problem where like, okay, they have to overcome some fundamental limitation of physics versus, okay, yeah, this is still some engineering challenges here, but these don't seem completely insurmountable. So being able to make those assessments quickly has been, is grounded in my background as an engineer.
Okay, I think you've preempted my third question a little bit, which is about what you kind of hope to see in a team. But I'm really interested to know more about like, have you seen startups trying to circumvent physics, like trying to tell you something that doesn't seem
Well,
physically
I mean
possible?
no, that was a bit of hyperbole, but I will say
Okay.
that as I mean, I wouldn't say I have legitimately seen teams trying to do that. No, no legitimate teams. We get a lot of deal flow that is like, okay, these people are just nuts. This is not, I was like, okay, you're building a transporter. You're a little too early. It's not Star Trek. But yeah, no, but I have seen things that have surprised me. One company I can't discuss the details, but just for some context, in mathematics, we don't have general solutions for nonlinear differential equations, et cetera, et cetera. And those equations govern a lot of principles that we have to deal with. And this this team, I sat down with them, was introduced, and I was like, okay, what do you guys got? Some new computational technique, et cetera, et cetera. And he's like, no, I have a general solution to this set of equations. And I was like, really? That doesn't seem realistic. And then they explained it to me and walked me through it. And I was like, okay, well, that is completely new. So we're we're in, so I've been working with them and trying to help get them funding and move to the next phase. But yeah, they they solved something that I was like, okay, I didn't think there was a solution for. So
Okay, so what are some of the good signs then? Are you kind of looking at I don't know, the cohesion of the team, like how they work as a unit? Are you mainly thinking about their product and the risks attached to it? I'm not as familiar with venture capital, so I'd really love to learn more about what your evaluation process is like.
yeah, I mean every VC has their own. In general, you're looking for solutions that um, can scale in some way, that they will grow to be large market opportunities, and that the actual technology itself can scale up to serve either a lot of people or big customers. The things though that we look for, since we're investing very early stage, we're investing at the so-called pre-seed level. So they might just have a minimum viable product. It might even be a little before that. But one of the things that we look for, especially to back so-called breakthrough companies, are founders that have insight into what the opportunity is, recognize where the value is being created, and who's going to get that value and how they're going to deliver it. And it's important to not ground that in what we think about things are today, but to think about what things are going to be, what's going to be in the future in terms of the problem. So we're looking for, the real breakthroughs come from those founders that are not necessarily solving a direct problem that everybody's clamoring for today, but they're solving a problem that everybody's going to be clamoring for tomorrow. So they have some insight into, and some vision of what the future is going to look like. And the other factor is, like, startups never, the startups that kind of blow up and become big, like, Amazon or Facebook or Uber, they never do that by themselves. It's never, oh, I have this great technological advance and we're going to be a big company. There are always other factors. There are external factors, there are trends and inflection points that make things possible. So we look for those, and those trends could be like regulatory trends. Are there government policies that have changed behavioral trends that people just now accept? Are people changing in how they do things, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a bunch of different factors, and founders that do well actually recognize those factors and can build off of.
In your work, do you see the term like AI used a lot? And this is
Yeah.
something I ask a lot of our speakers just because whenever I look around just local to Boston, almost everyone is saying that they're working in AI in some form or another, regardless of what their actual product or venture is. So I
Yeah.
guess with you, yeah, have you seen that too?
Well, yeah. I mean, as I said, the first firm I was launching was literally focused on AI companies. But yeah, we see it a lot. I use it every day. I mean, we have incorporated AI into our internal operations. So we use it to help source companies. We use it to help evaluate companies, and we use it as part of the general deal flow process. Um, but in terms of kind of out there in the marketplace, see a lot of AI companies. AI can, in some cases, create enormous efficiencies for processes, and for in can create efficiencies for the solutions that folks are delivering. But it's important to recognize that a lot of people just throw AI into their pitch deck, thinking that's going to get attention. And then you dig under, 2 questions in, you're like, yeah, you're not, that's not AI. Or you're just throwing it in there. You haven't actually shown why why that's actually helping. Um, in my, I was teaching AI for a while, and one of the things I kept telling people when they're like, okay, you think you're going to use AI or machine learning to solve a problem, I was like, just figure out, if you can do it with a spreadsheet, it's probably not AI. Right? So don't just throw AI at stuff that you can solve in other ways. And sometimes the AI helps those simple problems simply because it can do things at scale that you can't do any other way. But it's you know AI is here to stay. AI is solving real problems. AI is creating real value. It's got some hurdles, it's got some challenges, but yeah, we see it all the time.
Okay. It sounds like then the people who might be, just throwing AI into their pitch deck are a little bit behind then, right? Because what you had said in response to the previous question is you're really looking for founders who can anticipate things that are coming, right? And I think that
Yeah,
takes a little bit of imagination, maybe bigger understanding of macro things that are going on rather than just trying to hop onto whatever the thing is right now because the thing will change, right? Like, we have
right,
AI, but there's going to be something next.
right. I mean, it's the a lot of the new startups that you see around AI today are wrappers, obviously, for ChatGPT or Claude or some other large language model. And it doesn't take a lot of imagination to think, well, I can use this large language model to, streamline writing contracts or to streamline, processing a document in healthcare, et cetera, et cetera. Not that those things aren't valuable, but you know, at this point, almost anyone can do it. I mean, obviously those businesses have intricacies and those industries have intricacies and then require a knowledge base beyond just, I can write a good prompt. But, you know, these are not, I've seen the future and now I'm developing something fundamentally different. It's like, okay, I have access to these tools. Now I can create something that creates some efficiencies for everybody else, but it's not like, it's not like their vision is unique. So
Yeah, and I think OpenAI actually put out a call saying that they really want their service to be wrapped in this way, right? To help people with
yeah,
contracts and things like that. But I mean, to me,
yeah,
it seems like that's a future in which OpenAI really wins, not in which, there's
yeah,
some
that's
new thing coming on the pipeline.
yeah. We like to tell, our part of our evaluation is, okay, what is the moat potential? Like, okay, what are not that there are barriers to entry today, but what are the barriers to entry as you scale, as you become a bigger company? What's going to keep other people from supplanting you? And it's at this point, it's not going to be the fact that you have a model. It's a lot of it's going to come down to access to proprietary data and knowledge that you can apply to leverage the models better. But the fact that you can build something on top of ChatGPT is not a moat.
Okay. All right, so my next question to you is sort of about a little bit about like your choice of work. So to me, it looks like you kind of have a bit of a larger mission, helping underrepresented founders, combating climate change, and other things. And so I just
Mhm.
wanted to ask you a little about like what do you see as your mission, and how do you actually see your work as a part of that?
Yeah. So as I kind of alluded to earlier in the conversation, I'm drawn to difficult problems, um, but I also have a big focus on that innovation, technologies, and the applications of those things should be used to benefit society and not just make somebody rich. Um, So when I was starting my foray into venture capital and was launching Redtail, that was focused on the idea of responsible AI, because at that point I'd been working in the space. A big area of concern for me was, just bias in data science and machine learning, et cetera, et cetera. Um, and the idea of AI becoming more prevalent in society meant that, well, we need to be proactive in how we address bias and other discriminatory things that pop up out of AI, not necessarily out of intent, but because those biases are already built into the data that we have, right? So if we're building solutions based on, building machine learning solutions based on criminal justice data, well, it's going to learn all the biases that are already built into the criminal justice system. How do we combat that? Um, I saw that as a large and difficult problem. I saw that as a necessary problem to, benefit society in general. And then as I started to work on the climate, help my partner build the climate fund, we see a lot of climate venture that's focused on, let's reduce carbon in the, in the atmosphere. It's all focused on mitigation, et cetera, et cetera. But the there's three main pillars to address climate change. There's mitigation, which is let's stop putting carbon into the air and let's get carbon out. But there's adaptation, because climate change is already here and happening. How do we build solutions that help us adapt to the climate change that we're already experiencing? And then resilience, which is how do we bounce back from huge climate impacts in a way that, lets us keep moving forward. Those towns in North Carolina, some of those towns aren't going to come back. I mean, there's just, economically, it's probably not going to happen. So, um, our kind of informal motto is, if you're not solving the climate problem for everybody, you're not actually solving the problem. So, from again, to get back to the question, this has been a bit rambly. Um, my personal mission tends to focus on what can I do to help the most people. What are the hardest problems, and what can I work on that's going to help the most people? And my current role as a founder and partner at Malaika is focused on investing in climate innovations with a climate justice lens. And that means we put the emphasis on who will benefit from the innovation, not on who built it. So if somebody came to me with a solution that said, "Oh, we have this new solar panel system and it's really efficient and it'll make everybody, independent of the grid," except we're only selling it to rich people, that would not be a solution that we would find interesting. If you did that and you had a way to make it available and accessible to as many people as possible, then that would be much more interesting. But we, um, trying to do good in the world in general through my skill set. I'm not a doctor. I'm not curing cancer, but hopefully we can save a few homes and make a few people more energy efficient and stop making things worse.
Yeah, that's great. I especially like that breakdown of what we can actually do in response to climate change. I hadn't heard it put quite that succinctly before, so thank you.
Yeah.
So my last question for you is about kind of patents. So as I was doing research on you, I couldn't help but notice that you hold multiple patents in kind of simulation, energy management, and all these sorts of things. And I guess for our students, I was wondering if you could give us some insight into what that process is like and when they should actually seek to patent something that they might have worked on.
Um, yeah, that's an interesting one. So I have a couple of patents, as you said. So one is for a simulation rod that I led the technology development for, and the other one is for a building um, building management system. And then there's a couple more that are in the works around some AI stuff, accelerating computation. But as a friend of mine who was a patent lawyer, who was also a BU alum, said once, because I'd worked on a project where we stopped working on it, but then the company that we did the work for went off and wrote a patent and left us off the patent. So I was like, oh, well, I was like, oh, we should probably sue them. And he's like, are they making any money with the patent? I was like, no. He's like, then don't bother. He's like, because you're going to spend money suing them to get on the patent that doesn't do anything. Um, Patents are nice. They're not necessary. We don't, like, as investors, we don't put a lot of emphasis on them. I mean, if you have one and it's actually a real barrier, then yeah, that's fine. But you don't pursue patents just for patent's sake. I mean, it has to serve some economic purpose in your endeavor, because one, they're not cheap, and they are they are time sinks. But you know, if you've got, I wouldn't necessarily pursue one on my own, but if you've got a company behind you with legal resources and can assign people, and you just kind of have to chime in every once in a while to make sure that they're not saying something really, stupid or not true in the patent, then I'd say go for it. Otherwise, if, just having it is really not, um, you know, it's in some ways it's not worth the effort. And unless it's, really, really kind of foundational. But the other thing is, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to own the patent. Your name will be on it, but the company that you work for is going to own the patent. So it's a nice little perk, but like, I don't own those 2 patents. The companies I work for own them, but it's nice to say.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like there are certainly some people who can't help but say that they own multiple patents, even if it's for some, I don't know, a plastic toaster or something that
Yeah, yeah. I
makes
mean, look,
I don't know.
it can be a big deal. I mean, when I first started my career, I was working at the Brigham, and the corporate sponsor for the lab I was in was General, GE Research. And I was working with 2 of the leading engineers there, and these guys had between them, I don't know, 500 patents, something ridiculous like that. They were just cranking them out. They were just like, oh, we came up with this thing, pass it off to the lawyers, they write up a patent, there you go. It's like, but are they really? you know,
Yeah, well, I think this point that you're making about the kind of economic value of something, I think is really important. I know you also work with the Spark program here, and I've actually done a lot of work with the innovation program where they kind of pitch startup ideas, and it seems like it's actually hard sometimes to have them wrap their minds around this idea that eventually the process that they're starting has to be self-sustaining. Like someone has to pay for something, or there's this whole business side to things that goes along with technology
yep,
that oftentimes when you're pursuing this sort of career you don't think about until you're in it.
right. I mean, when again, as an investor, we see a lot of founders with the build it and they will come kind of attitudes. It's like, oh, I have this great idea for this thing, and it's like, okay, but once you dig in, it's like, okay, you really don't understand how this thing, it looks cool, it seems cool, it actually works, but how is it going to deliver value? And um it's not just that you have a better solution for something, it's how does it deliver that value? Where does it fit into the existing process that these companies have, et cetera, and other factors? Because, you might have some solution that creates an efficiency in some manufacturing step at a certain point, and the company could look, a customer could look at that and go, oh, that's great. Yeah, that would actually make that step this much better. but it would require a $500 million investment for us to change the whole rest of the process to fit that in. So no, we're not going to buy your fancy new solution, even though it's demonstrably better. So you know, this requires understanding who your customer is, what it is they do, and where you fit in. So a lot of times it's you know, it's not that your solution's bad, it's just that it doesn't fit in, but it has to deliver value. And you have to know where's it going to deliver value and how much you can charge, you know, for delivering that value.
I guess something that I've seen a little bit in my experience from is startups that are just looking to get bought out or other things like that. So, for example, I had a friend who worked at this company called Branch Out, which was basically like a LinkedIn competitor. But
Hmm.
actually talking to him every day, it was clear that their company was not really trying to make a viable product, but was trying to get some quick money from being closed out as a competitor. Like, do you sort
Yeah.
of see these sorts of like kind of, I don't know, get rich quick people or people who are a little bit more fraudulent in their motivations for making a startup
Um,
in the first place?
Not so much fraudulent as misguided. Um, Although I will say that, you know, the headline in venture capital is, you know, you got to be on track to be $1 billion company. One, most companies don't do that. Two, depending on the size of your fund, you can get very nice returns on companies that exit at $100 million, $200 million, et cetera. Not, you know, they don't have to become $1 billion, especially if you get in early, right? Um, a lot of that, you know, you have to be billion or $10 billion exits is driven by the fact that you have super large funds that have put a lot of money into these companies. And in order to get the returns, you have to have really large exits. But most exits are going to be mergers and acquisitions. So most exits are you're getting acquired, you're not going public, right? Somebody's buying you, you know, hopefully at, you know, a really high number, you know, high value. Um, but you do see companies that are, you know, they're viable products, um, but they are real, you know, you can tell that their most likely outcome or their actual and even their actual aim is to get it to the point where it becomes interesting for somebody to buy. So they're, you know, they're starting this company and their goal is I can sell this company at 25 million for $25 million, not for $500 million. And they're happy. That's great for a founder. And I think more people should be trying to build businesses that do that than trying to build the next Facebook. Um, because that's life-changing money for an individual, right? Or for a couple of founders, right? For a venture capitalist, that, you know, if you have $100 million fund, that's not really a great outcome. It's like we invested in this company at a $5 million valuation. They sold it at $25 million. Okay, yeah, you know, did we make 5 times our money? Possibly, but I put in $1 million, I get $5 million back. I have $100 million fund. My goal is to return $300 to $500 million to my investors. That $5 million return that I just got out of that company is not moving the needle in any meaningful way. So I don't, you know, venture capitalists wouldn't look at that as a as a win. But I think you don't have to aim for $1 billion, because one, that's almost never going to happen. But you do have to aim to create significant value. But you should think from the beginning, okay, well, IPO is probably not the path, but you know, who's gonna, you know, who are the likely people to acquire me, and what do I have to do to be in position to sell to those folks?
How do you, I guess, what are advisable financing paths, if not venture capital, for potential startups that are more capital intensive and less scalable compared to tech ones? So, for example, like nursing or home/daycare. So things that might, you know, involve more people and things like that.
Um, well, you know, tech gets all the glory in venture capital. realistically, I mean, the options for financing those kind of companies tends to be bootstrapping. You know, your best source of financing is customers. If you can get customers and, you know, get them to pay you more than it costs you to deliver the service, then, you know, you can grow from that. Capital intensive stuff, you know, I mean, we see capital intensive work businesses going on all the time. There's, you know, all the construction, all the buildings, real estate development, et cetera, et cetera. So it really depends on the industry. But there are very narrow financing, there are very niche financing opportunities for lots of businesses. Like I know as a startup, they build it, they are actually tech, but what they ended up doing, they were building basically a porta potty built on tech and a way to, you know, to build something better. And they ended up getting not only venture capital, but they ended up getting financing from a company that all they do is finance portable toilets at scale. They're like, oh, you need to get a bunch of toilets at this place. We will front you the money because it costs a lot of money to get, 5,000 toilets at a festival or something like that. They were like, okay, this is what they do. They finance porta potties. There are solutions for, there's a lot of money out there and there's a way to get it, but you also have to understand your business well enough to attract that capital.
Brahm, thank you so much for being here and for answering all of our questions today. It's been great to see you, and looking forward to kind of collaborating with you more as a part of CADS and this new OMDS.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's great to see you all, and good luck in the program, folks. And feel free to reach out.